Will Eddin be fired from the Rory and Mal podcast because he punched Julian?
You know when someone leans in because he was like very close to my face.
Yeah, bro.
When
That's the
someone
setup.
leaned, when someone leans in and they're like, "Yo, just be careful, bro." Someone might. It was kind of like that, but I guess it was a little more like sinister and dark. But again, not unbeknownst to me, I wasn't expecting. You guys don't know how much time we spend together, how much we talk and confide in each other. When it comes to production, that was my guy.
Wait, what you mean
I
was? Hold up. What you mean
was
was?
talking past tense. I know he's not my guy now. We made that clear.
The severity of the situation was very unclear at that point. It was very much,
Yeah,
all right, this happened. Let's record. Okay, if you're fine with that, cool. Lead it,
yeah,
and
yeah.
that's
Because
the route
it
it went.
seemed, yeah, it seemed like when you was asking him about it at first, I think you mentioned you thought it was a joke. It sounded like a joke the way Julian was speaking about it, but more he got
Mm.
into the story, I can see that it really affected him because, yeah, I know Julian said he wanted to bring it on the pod, but I think that's something you guys should have spoke about before recording. I don't know if you guys do like pre-production,
Yeah,
like
he
if you guys
said,
would look at the episodes before, but that shouldn't. I don't think that should ever came on the air.
yeah. I mean, of course, hindsight is always 2020, and I totally understand that perspective of it. Julian wanted to address it on air with Eddin. I mean, he had tried to call Eddin the night before, which he didn't pick up. So Julian made the decision that he wanted to address it with Eddin on air.
Yeah, I
And
think
again,
Julian.
hindsight's always 2020. I'm not saying we handled it in the
Okay.
best way. I think everyone was processing it all at the same time. But I mean,
Yeah, I don't think. I don't
Julian
think
as well.
Julian
He
was.
put the
Yeah, I don't
artwork
think
and
Julian
clips
was
together.
the
It was
one.
something that he was comfortable with at the time.
Yeah, I don't
Pardon?
think Julian was the one that's supposed to make that decision because he's the one that got attacked.
Are you kind of concerned this is like a fork in the road moment and like things will never be the same?
I mean, of course, that crosses your mind. But I think that's why this week is so important to hash everything out and see where everything lands. Let everyone speak their mind and gauge it from there, and then make a decision.
Yeah, I get it. Will there be a like HR party, a third party, or anybody involved, like just to document this because it has to be documented, I think, to some extent by a third party or somebody who in the HR.
Yeah. I've already spoken to HR people and lawyers. You know, I mean, I know in the other spaces people were spewing out false information about laws and shit, but I mean, anything those guys say, you guys take as law just because they say it really loud. Um, there's not a real liability on our end, but from a company standpoint, it is something that we want to resolve and make sure everyone feels safe. And if everyone doesn't feel safe, then that's another decision. But yeah, lawyers and HR has been contacted. But again, I had to scramble to call people like on Christmas Eve.
I think it was quite evident on the episode. We were all, I was, less than 8 hours after the incident. We were talking about it on mic. I think everyone in the room was like, hungover. I was, Eddin and myself were probably still in shock. There was just a lot of like things happening, and at the end of the day, I'm try to produce the best show possible, and I knew that a story like this would produce the best show. So I went through with at the time what we all agreed upon was right in just terms of just recording. Uh, and then yeah, man, like once I had time to like go home, the next morning I went home to my parents. My parents found out about it from listening. I didn't call them or turn to them after. Didn't really have time to anyway. Uh, and yeah, I mean, speaking to my parents, having the hangover wear off and having the pain of my head and jaw really settle in, and like just kind of like sitting with my thoughts, and just turning to my family, like the people that I trust the most and love the most and care about me the most. It's just a lot of like reflection and that little post that I commented on Reddit and shared on my story. I mentioned about how I often prioritize this stuff over my personal health, my physical health, and emotional health. And I think this was a textbook case of that.
That's right. On a recent episode, there was a big controversy as it was revealed that Eddin assaulted Julian after work. And it was a big deal as the situation seems to be escalating more and more every day. At first, it looked like a little harmless engagement, but then it was revealed that Eddin sustained several blows to Julian, and Julian himself said that his jaw hurt and that he was assaulted. And while Julian initially saw it as content over everything, it appears like his tone in this whole thing changed once his family members started to feel concerned for his health. And now we arrive where we are today, where it looks like Eddin may have to leave the show. It's clear here that the Rory and Mal podcast and the team that works within it are devastated by what happened. And while it was fun, go lucky, now they're starting to have to run a operation and actually get HR involved. One of the things of note is that Julian says that Eddin is no longer his friend. Now that's a big change. And I wonder how long Eddin can remain on the show. As if you look at the hierarchy, it looks like Eddin is the low man on the totem pole, right? Because isn't Julian a producer? And everybody seems to have had some prior existing relationship with someone before the show started. Rory knew Mal before the show started. Damaris knew Rory before the show started. Julian knew Rory before the show started. Eddin just kind of seems like someone who was brought on for the show, so they could move on from him in a relatively easy manner. But I still rock with Eddin, and I think if he's gone from the show, it will be a tough time for the podcast. But there's always ways to finesse and move on. Another interesting development from this is Eddin appears to have removed Rory and Mal from his bio, and we all know that's usually a sign that things are going left. And we also have to look at Eddin's accountability in this whole thing. As in the episode where it was revealed Eddin attacked Julian, he didn't seem apologetic at all. And with the episode being deleted from YouTube and audio, it looks like this situation is headed for a resolution, and a resolution that might end with Eddin having to exit the show. But let me know what you think in the comments. Should Eddin have to leave the show, or is this something that can be moved on from? It is my opinion that this is a fork in the road moment for the Rory and Mal podcast. And to me, Julian looks like he's done with Eddin. And I don't think they can work together moving forward. As how comfortable would he feel in the workplace? Would he feel safe and protected around Eddin? Also, I have to give Rory credit for saying that this was kind of his fault for allowing the podcast to make it to air. I can't be too critical because I'm someone who on my platform said that the Rory and Mal podcast needs to talk about more controversial subjects. And I think this is the reason why they let it go to air. I believe they were trying to entertain their audience. And even though it came at the expense of someone close to the show, I can't be mad at it, even if it was the wrong decision. Boy, I gotta tell you, this is a wild exchange. I never would have thought Rory and Mal would have a podcast where people actually fight each other. And I think things really started to go crazy for Julian when his family members probably contacted him and seemed concerned for his health. I feel like in life, anytime something happens to you and you're taking it really light and you're like, oh, it's nothing, when a family member steps in and be like, nah, dog, that was actually pretty serious. I'm concerned for your health. That's when things start to get real. And there's a lot of theories about why Eddin punched Julian. Did he punch Julian because of a prior mix-up or something that Julian said? And Eddin did say that Julian's really annoying on the podcast where they discussed the assault. So my guess is Eddin punched Julian as a result of resentment from some prior exchange that they had, or the totality of the dynamic of their relationship. I don't know, but that's just how it looks to me. I know Julian said that he never said anything, but I do know from my engagements with Julian in the Discord, back when I released the Rory audio, and also the night of the Patreon party, sometimes he says things that I think could be taken the wrong way. Like, I remember him that night saying that he would give me 20 minutes of hits, and I'm like, man, I don't know why you would say that. I feel like that's kind of weird. It was a joke, but it still was an inappropriate joke. And I'm not trying to joke on Julian here. I'm just saying it's kind of crazy that later that night, Julian would find himself at the end of an assault by Eddin. Alright, y'all, that's my video on this subject. I know a lot of people were like, Danny, how come you haven't made a video about Rory, Mal, and Julian and Eddin? Well, I just, there's a lot of stuff going on, and it's hard to crank them out so fast, but I knew it was a subject I would touch upon eventually. And boy, is this one of the biggest controversies I never saw coming. But once again, follow me on Twitter to Stop TV. Follow me on Instagram to Stop TV. I'm heavy on Twitter, especially with all the spaces I've been having. We're breaking news on there. We're breaking news for real. All right, y'all. This is Danny from The Stop. Peace.